Welcome to the Impact of Educational Leadership podcast with ID3 for Isaiah Drone III. This show was designed to provide an exclusive forum on educational achievement gaps related to learner success while discovering relationships and family issues in a diverse setting. All right, we're back again with another Impact Educational Leadership. This is episode 33. I'm your host, ID3 for Isaiah Drone III. Our panelist tonight is the Honorable Noel Candelaria. Let me tell you a little bit about Mr. Noel Candelaria, TSTA President. Noel Candelaria was elected President of the Texas State Teachers Association, TSTA, the state affiliate of the National Education Association in April 2014. Prior to his election as TSTA President, Mr. Candelaria served 3 years as TSTA Vice President after a distinguished tenure as President of the Isleta Teachers Association in El Paso, Texas, where he worked as a teacher's aide and special education teacher in Isleta Independent School District. He taught as a behavioral specialist focused on derailing his students from the school to prison pipeline. Noel and his wife, Patty, who also is an educator, are tireless advocates for children in public schools. They have 2 children, daughter Noel and son Patrick, who attend Texas public schools. As a father, Noel thrives to instill the values he learned from his father, the values of hard work, public service, and strong family values throughout his career. Noel has emphasized the importance of relationships built on trust in the classroom, the community, and the political arena. He has used his skills and knowledge as a teacher and leader to lead TSTA in the advancement of its mission of a great public school for every child through a lens of racial and social justice. As TSTA President, Noel is committed to ensure the organization and its members understand the essential role public education and educators play in our democracy. Mr. Noel Candelaria, please say hello to the people, sir.
Hi, how is everyone doing? And thank you for having me here.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, tonight's topic is one that is reaching around the great state of Texas. That is Governor Abbott protect Texas students, educators, and communities. Educators all over Texas are responding courageously to the needs of students and their neighbors during these difficult and challenging times. Government officials also must do their part to help kids, educators, and communities stay safe. Lawmakers have been discussing and negotiating deals to rebuild the nation's infrastructure for years. It might take a crisis like this pandemic to get them to become the United States we have all loved and dreamt about having. Today, we will be discussing the hope of educators throughout the state of Texas during this coronavirus epidemic. Pleased to have Mr. Noel Candelaria. What are some demands that we need to put in place to ensure that all kids, educators, communities, and stakeholders are treated fair during this crisis, sir? That's my question.
Well, I mean, I think that's a really important question as we think of, what educators have been doing, during this crisis. We have, all of our education support professionals, whether it's our custodians and maintenance workers who, have been on the front lines, doing some, deep cleaning and necessary work in our school buildings to ensure that they're safe and ready to go, and continue to clean them for employees that are still in the buildings. As we speak right now, we have our food service providers who are, in buildings every day preparing meals so that they can be delivered, or so that families can drive up to a school site and pick up those much needed meals for our students who still need to eat, and their school meals are the meals that they look forward to and that the families are able to provide for the students. So, that's really important, which is why what we have asked from the governor at this point, considering that he had a press conference and ordered the schools to be closed through May the 4th, we don't believe that's good enough. We're asking the governor to close the schools down for the remainder of the school year. That is our big ask that we have right now. With the continued spread of the coronavirus, not seeing the spread slow down anytime soon. The virus keeps expanding in Texas. We don't know still which counties will be affected. And we know that the viruses don't stop at the county line. And so we need to make sure that we have across the board, a state closure of all of the schools, instead of leaving that decision up to the local school districts, which is really only creating unnecessary confusion and stress across the state of Texas. Several states, including Oklahoma and New Mexico around us, have already closed their schools for the rest of the year. We're asking that during this closure, that the governor still continue to ensure that there is funding and that schools, are still required to continue distributing the free meals to our students in a safe way. 60% of our Texas children in our Texas public schools are economically disadvantaged. And so without these meals, kids will go hungry and families will struggle. That's why we're asking, as part of the closure, to continue the meal distribution and making sure that the way you can do that is by continuing to ensure full funding of our school districts to be able to continue, for them to be able to continue to do that, which is also going to require the school districts to continue paying and providing the benefits to the hourly employees that are out there right now in the front lines, meeting with families so that they can get these meals, and are also, in our school buildings. Many of these support workers, who are working tirelessly as we speak, are risking their own health, like I mentioned, to clean these school facilities and help feed, the children of the families in their community while the schools are closed. They'll remain dedicated to their students because that's who we are as educators. Even under these extremely difficult circumstances, they must know that the district will have their back and that the districts will have the resources, so that our employees in our schools are also going to be able to have the resources to meet the needs in their own families during this emergency. One other thing that we're asking for from the governor during this time is guaranteed paid sick time for all of our employees who are affected by COVID-19, or if they have family members that they have to care for, during this crisis. That's really important so that we can have a strong workforce ready to welcome children back when our schools are back in session. And we also want them to, something that's really near and dear to my heart is to continue to work with the Texas Education Agency and work with districts to help find ways to ensure that there's educational equity during these closures. We're not asking for schools to be, for the school year to end. What we're asking for is the closure of the schools, but to continue to allow educators to reach out to students in every which way possible, whether it's through the phone, because as we know, in Texas, 1/3 of our students don't have access to the internet at home. That's about 1.6 million of our Texas students. So a lot of our teachers are having to pick up the phone and calling the students, to try to figure out what the inventory is at home, what access to resources parents have, because we're finding out that a lot of our students don't have something that most of us take for granted, which is paper, pencil, crayons, markers, simple tools that we use at school to help students learn. So as teachers and educators are trying to craft activities and lessons for student learning to continue and to expand on learning that's already happened throughout the year, we want to make sure that we're providing the teachers the time and the ability to reach out to the families so that we're ensuring education equity for all of our students, including our students in special education, our English language learners, our economically disadvantaged students, like I said, who can't afford computers or have internet access at home. They can't left behind because of this emergency. And so education and learning must continue for all of our children. That's the best way to protect everyone from unnecessary risk. And during these closures, we are also asking that, that the state waive all teacher appraisals for this academic year because of these extraordinary circumstances, including the inability of school districts to conduct direct classrooms observations, which isn't able to happen right now for administrators because of the conditions that the virus has created. The governor has already waived START testing, which is one thing that we asked for. We were glad to see. This is another reasonable waiver for teachers who are right now working really hard to try to redesign their lessons and activities to be able to connect to these students during unusual times, and to try to really understand that you can't just take everything that you have in your physical building and try to recreate all the resources and activities that teachers have and the tools and resources that are at their disposal in a classroom, and all of a sudden now try to either recreate that inside 30 different homes if you have a classroom of 30, or in secondary classrooms where teachers can have up to 150 students. I mean, how do you recreate the resources and tools that you have in your classroom at your disposal to now make that available at home? It's nearly impossible. And so that's why the demand that we have from the governor at this moment is to close down the schools for the rest of the year, and allow the creativity of teachers and the ability to connect on a human level, and understanding that what we do in our public schools is a lot more than just academics. It's providing for the social and emotional well-being of our students, and that's something that we need to be focusing on right now to ensure our students' health and safety, and the safety of their families and the community as a whole. I think the last thing we need right now is for schools to reopen on May 4th. And all of a sudden you have hundreds, if not thousands, of kids in any given community, going back to their public schools and understanding that the virus doesn't remain at home. It comes with the kids and the potential of spreading again. And as the curve starts coming hopefully down soon by that time, the last thing we need is for that curve to jump right back up, because, we prematurely opened up our public schools and brought the community, close together again. And so that's the demand we have from the governor right now at this moment.
Mr. Candelaria, that was crystal clear for me, and we all know that our governor is a fighter. And this man has been fighting all the way from his youth, from the time, he was jogging and, he was struck by a tree, and he fought through all of that. And from that, he fought for the people. He fought for the citizens, the community. We know that we have fighters in the ring. We have fighters on board like yourself, sir, who is a fighter and who is a thinker and who is a strategist and who is a person that's all about operations. And with that being said, sir, I want to thank you for that response. It was very in-depth. It was exactly what I was looking for, and it's something that we're going to be able to push and get out there for the people so that they can hear and they can get on board and get on page and on the same sheet of music. How do you see our country coming back? How do you see our country coming back to work once we're on the other side of this COVID-19 outbreak?
I think one of the things that I definitely, because it's what I'm seeing right now, is how the communities are coming together, even though there's distance between us. The required distance between us right now to be, physically distant from each other, the 6 feet apart, but yet, that has not kept, communities, whether it's my community, what I've observed, what we've done as neighbors, to look out and reach out for each other and check in on each other, see how, our elderly are doing, how we're checking in, on our students, how we're checking in on the social and emotional well-being of each other, which is really important right now. We are seeing, neighborhoods, Texans, the nation, rally around each other to help us, come together. And I think what we are also seeing and witnessing is an extraordinary partnership that's happening right now between parents, students, and their teachers and the educators, which I think is really important right now when, at a time when there is so much uncertainty and there is a lot of questions and still no clear, prognostication of when, this will end and when will we come back to a sense of normalcy. But yet, despite all of that, we're seeing the best of each other, every single day that we're witnessing, as we're connecting through social media, as people are picking up the phone and checking in, with their loved ones on a much more regular basis and reconnecting, with each other on a human level. And I think that is going to, pay dividends as we come out and come back on the other side of this COVID-19 and reconnect as communities. And I think when I see, for example, right now our neighborhood public schools, just something as simple as providing meals, continue to provide meals for the families and the kids. Families are seeing how essential our neighborhood public schools are and how much they are part of the community. Oftentimes it's just a building, that people drive by, especially if they don't have kids or the kids have grown up, and, it's a building that a lot of people, just drive by on a daily basis, oftentimes in their neighborhood. And I think now when we see families lining up in that neighborhood public school, waiting to pick up their meals, we realize how much important of a role our public schools play bringing people together and connecting students on that social and emotional level that is part of the whole development of a child. And I think we're starting to see as a country how important human interaction is and how much it means to care for one another on a much deeper level that I think is going to put us in a much stronger place when we come out of COVID-19. And I'm really optimistic of where I see our country up and running. I know that it's going to take some time. It's going to take some time to kind of come back to a sense of normalcy. But I'm really optimistic of us being there and getting there together as a community and as the nation that we are.
Thank you again for that response, and it's very heartfelt, sir. As you were speaking, I can hear concern for parents, for family members, for school staff, and for just all trusted adults that are playing a part and that have been affected by this outbreak. And and I can hear the concern about helping children make sense of what's going on, what they're hearing. But the transparency is also a factor that I'm hearing from you, that we need to be honest. We need to be honest and we need to be accurate. All right, and that's the only way we're going to help minimize the anxiety and the fear, right? And so as leaders, I like the way you start aiming toward the different tools that leadership needs to acquire to preserve mental health. CDC has created guidance to help adults have these conversations with our children as well about the COVID-19 and ways they can avoid getting and spreading the disease. Sir, but with that being said, let me ask you another question here. Mr. Noel Candelaria, what are some tools that parent communities can work together to bridge the needs of students and school requirements to help safeguard the educational system in Texas during this pandemic episode?
I mean, I think that one of the most important things is to, continue to reach out as parents, to their schools and their teachers, and to ask, how we can continue to work together. I think one of the most important things that this pandemic has revealed, that I think has just taken it to a whole new level, is the issue of equity. And as I've talked to teachers from all across the state, from urban, rural to suburban, they're finding out that their students and their parents don't have the resources or tools oftentimes, and trying to contact the home and trying to find out exactly what resources a parent has available at home, if any, to be able to bridge some of that learning, to continue learning and develop and design activities that can be used at home. I think we're really finding out how important our school structure is, because as we inventory what resources kids have at home, to develop lessons, to then determine how we differentiate the lessons for students based on, not just their academic needs, as well as their social and emotional needs, but also based on what tools and resources they may have at their disposal at home. It's creating a challenge for teachers to try to figure out, if a third of my kids don't have access to the internet, obviously I can't design a lesson that's delivered online. I have to then, either put together some packets or pick up the phone, and how do I walk a student and a parent, during the system, which I think really speaks to how important our public school system is to ensure that every student has access to opportunity and to the American dream, which is really what education is all about. And so when we think about what we need to continue to do right now, and what hurts me is that I've actually seen some people start calling for taking away the funds. The legislature, this last legislative session, they invested $6.5 billion to public education over the biennium. So it's about $3.2 billion every year for the next 2 years. This came after, they cut $5.4 billion back in 2011, which we're barely still trying to, come out of. And so this $6.5 billion that the legislature invested this last year, started, rebuilding, our infrastructure in our schools. It started, treating our teachers professionally. The districts were able to provide pay raises for teachers for the first time in years. Teachers have been, we've been losing teachers out of the profession. I think we lose about half of all the teachers within the first 5 years. And in Texas, over 1/3, almost 40% of our Texas teachers have 5 years or less of experience. And these are teachers, who are working in some of the most challenging, conditions and circumstances, and with the students who need the most experienced teachers the most. And so I think what this has been showing us is how important the connection and the partnership between parents and students is, and how we need to come together to ensure that our legislative system, whether it's from our school board to the State House to the White House and Congress, that we continue advocating together for the needs of our students and ensure that our students have the resources that they need, that our school districts have the capacity to ensure education equity for all of our students, so that not one child, because I really believe that if we have a classroom of 30 and one student doesn't have access to the resources, that's not good enough. That's not who we are as a country, and that's not what we believe in as a public school system, that every child needs to have access to that opportunity and to be able to fulfill their dream and to live out their own full potential. And it's something that as we continue to look forward, and how we continue to strengthen and build the neighborhood public school system, so that every child, regardless of zip code, regardless of where they live, or regardless of where their parents can afford to live, that they have the same access and equity to the opportunity and the ability to fulfill their own potential and live out their own, American dream, which is what this country was founded on, with the hopes and dreams of what our potential, is based on our hard work. And that's what I'm hoping, that, at the end of this, we're able to make sure that we have a public school system that is stronger than ever, a public school system that we all understand and believe in is fundamental to the foundation and principles of our democracy. But most importantly, it's a social gathering where kids can come together and learn, to connect with each other on a human level, so that we know, that when one of us is in need, we're all in need, and we must ensure that we're closing all the gaps for all of our students, and continue to honor and respect the teaching profession and educators, and the critical partnership that is the parent-teacher, because as many of us as teachers know, when the child walks into our classroom, they become our children, for those 180 days or however long the school year is. But it doesn't stop there, because we continue connecting with our students from the time they walk in the doors, whether it's in pre-kindergarten, to the time they walk on that stage of graduation, and even into college. That is really important for us, as educators, that we continue to connect with our students, but that we also have the tools and resources to connect with our students and help them achieve their own, individual dream.
Mr. Noel Candelaria, educators all over Texas are responding courageously, just like you are. They're bold, They're bold and they're responding because the government needs to hear their voices. The government officials need to hear their voices so that they can help our kids, our children, our educators, our communities. Mr. Candelaria, I'm so glad that you were here on this podcast. But before you leave, from your perspective, just give us a story. Give us a story of why you're so passionate about being a behavior specialist that's focused on derailing students from the school to prison pipeline based off of your profession, working with special needs school kids, you name it. Just give us a story, give us your heart, sir, and let us kind of feel you as far as why are you so passionate about our students.
You know, my teaching career, I was very fortunate to begin my teaching career at Cesar Chavez Academy there in Isleta Independent School District, which is in El Paso. That's the alternative campus where students that are, expelled from their home schools because of something they had done, and they got sent to my campus. I was very fortunate that as a teacher's aide, I had some very strong role models, who I looked up to. And when I first started at that campus, and I realized that every student that was walking into my campus, when we think about our at-risk youth, there were no greater at-risk youth than the kids that walked into my campus every single day. And so when I started to know and understand their stories, and understand what path led them to where they were now, and they literally had one foot in the judicial system and one foot out. And I could not allow the second foot to get in, and when I started knowing and understanding their stories, I clearly saw that there were instances and circumstances throughout their life that were beyond their control. And so for the 7-8 hours that I had them every single day, I strived to do everything I could in my power, because I knew that as an educator, every second that I had in front of the child, I had the potential to literally save their lives. And that's a responsibility that I took seriously, which is why I became involved in my union, because I realized that as a union leader, I had the potential to impact policy, that was able to help provide support, the students on my campus, that I was able to ensure that my fellow colleagues had the resources that we needed to truly derail these kids from the school to prison pipeline, because I saw every single one of those kids. I saw myself in them. That could have been me if my circumstances might not have been slightly, different, or, if I would have, if they would have just had a little bit of luck at some point in their life. And so I saw myself in every single one of those kids, and I knew that at any point, in my childhood, I could have been one of those kids. That I was fortunate that I had carrying adults in my life, including my parents and educators who really invested in me, and that's what I wanted for every single one of those kids. And that's why I invite people to join us at tsta.org, and come join us in this fight to ensure education equity for all of our students, so that every student can achieve their dreams and not end up in the school to prison pipeline.
Wow, you heard it first. Today, we had the Honorable Noel Candelaria, the one and only. All right, well, take care. Bye for now.
Welcome to the Impact of Educational Leadership podcast with ID3 for Isaiah Drone III. This show was designed to provide an exclusive forum on educational achievement gaps related to learner success while discovering relationships and family issues in a diverse setting.